Welcome to Global Truth. This is your host, Dr. Nasir Baig. History doesn't always repeat itself with soldiers marching in steel-toed boots down cobblestone avenues. Sometimes history repeats itself in quiet, temperature-controlled distribution centers, powered by hydraulic guillotine blades and high-speed optical sensors. Right now, in our times, we are witnessing visions that once existed purely within the pages of dystopic literature crawl off the page and materialize into plain sight. For centuries, visionary authors warned us of a future where human thoughts would be harvested, regulated, or stripped off its physical anchor. We read those books in schools and reassured ourselves that's just fiction. That's a hyperbole of state control. Yet, here we are. An artificial intelligence powerhouse, a company built on the premise of AI safety, has been systematically purchasing millions of physical books, severing their bindings, scanning their pages into digital training data, and sending the shredded remnants off to recycle bins. The physical book, the ultimate artifact of human consciousness, is being executed so an algorithm can learn how to talk like us. And the most haunting part, a federal judge just ruled that this destruction is entirely legal. Welcome to the podcast. Today, we step into the shadow of the digital furnace to explore Project Panama, the landmark court battles, and why humanity's oldest obsession, destroying the written word, has taken a terrifying new form. To understand why the destruction of physical books strikes such a visceral nerve, we have to recognize a grim historical truth. The erasure of text by authoritarian regimes and zealous rulers is older than the printing press itself. Whenever power seeks absolute authority, its first enemy is the printed word. Books hold memory. Books hold dissent. Books allow a dead author to whisper dangerous ideas into the mind of a living reader across centuries. When a ruler wants to remake reality, they must first liquidate the evidence of what came before. Let's take a brief journey through the smoke of human history where we have erred. 213 BC, the Qing dynasty. Emperor Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of unified China, ordered the infamous burning of books and burying of scholars. To enforce ideological conformity, he commanded the destruction of historical texts, poetry, and philosophy, especially Confucian works. Hundreds of scholars were buried alive, and thousands of irreplaceable scrolls were burned to ensure history began only with his reign. Then, from 48 BC to 642 AD, the ancient library of Alexandria, Egypt, the greatest repository of knowledge in the ancient Mediterranean, suffered multiple catastrophic burnings over centuries, from Julius Caesar's accidental fire in 48 BC to attacks under Emperor Aurelian in the 270s AD. Patriarch Theophilus in 391 AD, an estimated 400,000 to 700,000 papyrus scrolls containing the lost literature, mathematics, and science of the classical world was turned to ashes. Then in 1497, the bonfire of the Vanities, Florence, Italy. The Dominican friar Girolamo Savonarola led a religious crusade against what he deemed moral corruption. On February 7, 1497, his followers gathered thousands of secular books, manuscripts of poetry, cosmetics, and Renaissance artwork in the public square of Florence, reducing centuries of human creativity to embers. 1562, the Maya Codices. Franciscan Bishop Diego de Landa oversaw the Maniato da Fe, believing the indigenous text contained devil worship. He publicly burned at least 27 invaluable Maya bark paper codices and thousands of sacred artifacts. Today, only 4 authentic Maya codices survive in the entire world. leaving an entire civilization's written memory permanently severed. August 1914 and May 1940, University Library of Leuven, Belgium. During World War I, invading German troops set fire to the historic university library, destroying over 230,000 rare medieval manuscripts and incunabula. Rebuilt by international donations, the library was shelled and burned again by Nazi forces in May 1940, obliterating nearly 900,000 volumes in a double historical tragedy. Then, 10th of May 1933, the Nazi book burning in Germany. Under Adolf Hitler's orders and orchestrated by propaganda minister Joseph Goebbels, the German Student Union organized mass burnings across 34 university towns. On May 10th, in Berlin's Opernplatz, over 25,000 un-German books were thrown into bonfires. Why did Hitler order this? Because to establish a totalitarian ethno-state, the regime had to purge Jewish authors, socialist thinkers, pacifists, and any literature that encouraged critical thought or universal human rights. August 1992, Sarajevo City Hall Library, Bosnia and Herzegovina. During the siege, army targeted the National and University Library with shells. Over 3 days, shelling destroyed more than 1.5 million books, including 155,000 rare manuscripts and archival documents. Firefighters and librarians risked their lives under sniper fire trying to rescue precious texts from the flames. Because this history is so deeply scarred into our collective subconscious, literature has repeatedly warned us about the death of the book. In Marcus Zusek's The Book Thief, set in Nazi Germany, saving a book from a public fire becomes the ultimate act of quiet rebellion. In Yoko Agawa's The Memory Police, an island state systematically disappears objects, including books, and citizens who retain memories of them. They are hunted down. In Margaret Atwood's The Handmaid's Tale, the fundamentalist regime restricts reading exclusively to elite men, stripping women of literacy to maintain subjugation. But chief among these prophetic works is Ray Bradbury's 1953 masterpiece, Fahrenheit 451. He presented a surreal, dystopic irony. In his imagined future, the job of firefighters was not to put out fires, but to start them. They were tasked with burning books at 451 degrees Fahrenheit, the temperature at which paper ignites. Why were books burned in Bradbury's world? Not just because a tyrant ordered it, but because society chose comfort over depth. Books caused debate. Books contained conflicting opinions that made people feel uncomfortable and unequal. The state realized that if you strip away complex texts and replace them with mindless, rapid-fire electronic media, people stop asking why and only ask how. It is a bitter irony that Fahrenheit 451 itself has faced censorship and bans across numerous US schools, school districts, and states over the decades, from Texas and Florida to Mississippi, frequently challenged for coarse language or for daring to criticize state-enforced ignorance. The very book warning us against book burning has been pulled from library shelves by administrative decree. And now, life is imitating art in a way Bradbury could never have anticipated. Let's talk about Project Panama. Inside the artificial intelligence industry, data is liquid gold. Large language models like OpenAI's GPT-4 or Anthropic's Claude, they do not learn by magic. They learn by ingesting trillions of words written by human beings. High-quality human prose, nuanced philosophical logic, and structured narrative are essential for making an AI sound intelligent. Where do you find millions of pages of pristine, edited human language? Books. Code documents exposed that Anthropic, the company behind the famous Claude AI assistant, operated an internal program code named Project Panama. Anthropic didn't just crawl websites, they went into the physical world. Through used book brokers like Better World Books and World of Books, they bought millions of physical used volumes in bulk. What happened to these books next can only be described through a brutal metaphor. It was an industrial slaughterhouse for human thought. Contractors took these physical books, works of poetry, history, out-of-print biographies, specialized scientific tests, and ran them through heavy industrial hydraulic cutters. They sliced off the cloth and leather spines. They sheared away the bindings, like skinning and quartering an animal, then reduced bound literature into loose sheets of paper so high-speed sheet-fed scanners could devour page after page at terrifying speeds. Once scanned into digital raw files, the physical paper was destroyed, shredded, or shipped off to industrial recycling plants. Why do this? Why slice and scan physical books instead of using digital files? To train AI, you need clean text. Scanning books allows engineers to extract long-form reasoning, complex storytelling, and deep domain knowledge that simply doesn't exist on the chaotic, low-quality open web. It improves the AI's ability to reason, format essays, analyze nuance, and simulate human empathy. When news of Project Panama broke, authors, archivists, and cultural critics reacted with horror. People began asking, what happens when rare or out-of-print books, copies that may only exist in a few dozen physical forms worldwide, are bought up, sliced apart, and turned to pulp? When an out-of-print physical copy is destroyed, if that digital file remains locked inside a proprietary corporate database to train a commercial AI, the public physical artifact is gone for good. Critics across America and around the globe began protesting. They protested against this process, explicitly comparing it to an Orwellian future where history is ingested, processed, and controlled by a corporate thought police. Now you might be asking, how is this even legal? Isn't destroying copyrighted books to turn them into AI models a blatant crime? Here is where the story takes its most bizarre legal twist. In the landmark federal case, Bartz versus Anthropic, filed in the Northern District of California, senior US District Judge William Alsup issued a ruling that shocked the publishing world. Under American copyright law, there is a concept known as first sale doctrine. When you buy a physical book fair and square, you own that physical copy. You can read it, sell it, give it away, or chop it up and throw it in the trash. Judge Alsup ruled that destructive scanning of legally purchased print books is protected under fair use. Why? Because in the eyes of the court, Anthropic bought the physical book, transformed it into a digital format for internal searchability and AI training, and then destroyed the physical book. Listen to the paradox here. Destroying the book is what makes it legal. If Anthropic had bought the book, scanned it, and then kept or resold the physical copy, they would possess two copies, which would constitute unauthorized duplication and copyright infringement. But by slicing off the binding, scanning the pages, and destroying the paper original, they maintain a 1-to-1 ratio, one physical copy bought, one digital copy retained. Judge Alsup concluded this way, a quintessentially transformative fair use. For AI developers, Judge William Alsup's ruling in Bartz versus Anthropic establishes a legal blueprint by extending the first sale doctrine to industrial AI pipelines. Legal and technology experts note that by declaring destructive scanning, purchasing a physical print copy, severing its binding to scan it, and destroying the original to be transformative fair use, the court created a roadmap for tech companies to bypass costly digital licensing deals with publishers. Other AI firms are already contracting with used book brokers to replicate this buy and destroy pipeline, shifting corporate data gathering strategies away from unauthorized digital downloads and toward the secondary physical market. For the future of print books, authors and cultural preservation experts, they warn of severe long-term consequences, like erosion of authors' compensations, because the first sale doctrine allows second-hand books to be resold without paying ongoing royalties. AI companies can consume an author's life work without compensating them or seeking consent, stripping creators of a potential new revenue stream from AI licensing. Depleting of the second-hand book supply, mass-scale bulk purchasing by tech conglomerates, it threatens to drain the second-hand market of rare, mid-list, and out-of-print physical titles, permanently removing physical copies from circulation and community access. Irreversible cultural enclosure. As physical volumes are reduced to pulp and converted exclusively into internal proprietary digital weight metrics, human literary heritage becomes centralized behind corporate paywalls, leaving the remaining physical copies scarcer, more expensive, and increasingly vulnerable to permanent loss. There was, however, a massive catch. Before the Anthropic started buying millions of physical books, they took a shortcut. In its early development phase, Anthropic downloaded over 7 million pirated digital books from illegal shadow libraries like Library Genesis, LibGen, Books 3, and Pirate Library Mirror. While Judge Alsop ruled that training AI on legally bought books was fair use, he strongly signaled that downloading torrented pirated libraries was straight-up copyright infringement. Faced with a devastating class action trial, Anthropic agreed to a staggering $1.5 billion settlement, the largest copyright payout in history. And as part of that historic settlement, the court issued a strict mandate. Anthropic must permanently delete and destroy all original source files and derivative dataset copies downloaded from those shadow libraries. So, who is behind this? Who built the engine that is consuming human literature? Anthropic was founded in 2021 by siblings Dario and Daniela Amode, along with a group of former senior researchers who split off from OpenAI. They marketed Anthropic as a safety-first AI research company, raising billions of dollars from tech giants like Amazon and Google. Their flagship AI model, Claude, is celebrated worldwide for its elegance, coding ability, and natural tone. It was Dario Amode and Anthropic's leadership who realized early on that to win AI race, they needed human culture at scale. They hired former executives from Google's book scanning initiatives to execute Project Panama, declaring a mission to acquire all the books in the world. Think about the sheer scale of this transition. For 500 years, the physical book was the decentralized fortress of human freedom. A book on your wooden shelf cannot be edited remotely by a server update. A printed history book cannot be quietly censored by an algorithm overnight. It exists in the real physical world, tangible, permanent, and immune to digital erasure. When you take millions of physical books, destroy their bindings, convert them into high-dimensional numerical vectors inside a central AI model, and recycle the paper, you are concentrating the sum total of human thought into the hands of a few corporate entities. We are standing at a profound cultural crossroads. When George Orwell wrote 1984, he warned us of the thought police, the Ministry of Truth, an authoritarian apparatus that constantly altered historical records, dropping old texts down memory holes so the past could be rewritten to serve the present. When Ray Bradbury wrote Fahrenheit 451, he warned us of a society where mechanical hounds patrolled the streets while physical books were reduced to grey ash by state-approved burners. But neither Orwell nor Bradbury quite foresaw this exact twist. The books would be bought up by hyper-capitalist tech conglomerates, sliced apart by hydraulic blades, scanned into neural networks, and pulverized into paper pulp, all under the protection of federal legal doctrines. These prophetic visions of Bradbury and Orwell are no longer distant warnings sitting on a high school reading list. They are the blueprint of the present. As physical books disappear into the maw of artificial intelligence, we must ask ourselves, when last physical copy of a forgotten book is sliced, scanned, and shredded, who truly owns human memory? The reader who holds the paper, or the algorithm that swallowed the words? Thank you for listening. Keep your physical books close, guard your libraries, and until next time, keep reading. Take good care of yourself.